Yo,
Hey, how's it going, Vosh?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I just making you big on my screen, and now you're mighty and powerful.
Thank listen, all men are kings. It has nothing to do with their size or their height, comrade.
That's a good quote. How did your battle go?
With Warren Farrell?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. It's not the type of discussion that I'm typically used to because Warren Farrell is an academic, which means that he's not really that up on the hot internet debate styles that are really running wild with kids these days. But I think I was able to meaningfully challenge some of the worst elements of his points. The apparent hypocrisy between him trying to get rid of gender roles while also asserting a kind of biological essentialism when it comes to the expectations of male and female parents, that sort of stuff. I think I was able to push back on it pretty well. I'm happy with my performance.
And you said it was going to be about sexism? Was that actually what the topic was?
It was
like
about,
you said he's one of the founders of the men's rights movement. Did I get that right?
yes, it was about like whether or not feminism is harmful to women, and broadly speaking, he's often attributed to being the father of the men's rights movement, though somewhat begrudgingly. He's written a lot of books on how men suffer too, and how feminism doesn't always address that very well, and that's led to him kind of being like a father figure for a bunch of people who uses descriptive statements as an excuse to go off into a bunch of like misogyny, you know?
Ah, gotcha.
It's like the Jordan Peterson thing, kind of, except Jordan Peterson's an actual fascist, and Warren Farrell isn't.
Well, also Jordan Peterson doesn't exist anymore. He's kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth.
True, and better are we all for it. I never even got a chance to really break that guy's ideas down. I did a video on him like once. It's a shame because they're so dumb when you actually take a look at them.
Oh, I've done many a deep dive. It's not a fun rabbit hole to go down. Let me say that. I have a beef to pick with you right out of the gates, Vosh.
Hit me. I'm ready.
I can turn the spice up to 20.
I'm ready for blood.
Okay. I spent all this time editing an adorable thumbnail of the two of us, and you didn't even retweet it. Look at this.
Wait, you tweeted me?
Yeah, with an adorable thumbnail. If you see it, you'll see how adorable it is.
I never even checked my notification. Okay, wait. After the Sean fucking Bernie or Bush shit, I was not checking my Twitter notifications at all. I completely
nice.
stopped. Wait, fucking tweet me. I'll retweet it. I'm here for it.
So you concede to this debate then that you did not retweet.
Yes, I will concede this point. You premise one, you've beaten me.
But come on, it is adorable. You got to admit.
I haven't found it yet.
That's right. Oh, okay.
We'll
just go to my tweet, like it's at the top of my Twitter.
Oh, I found
but you'll see if you get to the top of it, you'll see that like I've never edited your icon before. I didn't notice you're sweating in your logo.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot in that TV head suit.
That's why. Because I was like, as like the foremost debate lord of the internet, and like rightly so, you've earned that title. Like I was like, why does he sweat in his avatar? It makes it look as if you're nervous, but you're not nervous. I know you're not.
Yeah,
especially when you go up against these huge people.
Hot in there. No, the goal that I had. I don't know if you knew who I was back very early on when I was streaming, but I would do video titles or video thumb cards where I would do an original drawing for each one. What's that noise?
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't around. I wasn't around back then.
Oh my god, that noise was coming from me. I'm sorry. I had a fucking Twitter video open. I didn't even realize. But I would draw myself like really, really big and muscular, like every time. And a lot of people apparently interpreted that as like some unironic posturing, and then like make fun of me afterwards, like, "Huh, wow, you don't really look like that, do you?" But what I was trying to do was invoke and then criticize the perceived hypermasculinity of people who do the type of stuff that I do with the debate lord shit. And that was what I was trying to hit there as well. Like, yeah, I'm all cool in this like suit or whatever, but it's not it's a costume, not like a real thing. I'm sweating. It's uncomfortable, you know? That was the joke I was trying to go for.
Is that the one where you have that kind of like alpha male androgynous super hypermuscular body? I've seen that picture. I didn't know you had drawn it too.
That might have been when I drew myself as a JoJo character, but I probably did draw. Yeah, I've drawn cartoonish versions of myself quite a few times.
I wish I had that skill. I would be drawing those kind of things all the time. There would be way more penises involved, but you know.
I've got a secret, fucking top secret porn art Twitter that no one gets to see. But yeah, I gotta save the good stuff for the YouTube. You know how it is.
I know how it is. So I guess a couple things I wanted to talk on.
Mhm.
I think since we last spoke, what was one of the things you said to me? You were like, Lance, the thing about you is you've got absolutely no dirt on you. You're the only person in this sphere, this realm, that hasn't had any problems. I think I've now gone through like multiple controversies and cancellations, so I've grown a little bit.
Yeah,
There's,
I was really proud to see it. We talked even before. It's been so long. We talked before Destiny's N-word saga arc.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so yeah. So for your involvement in that and like the fallout since, like a lot has gone on since then for both of us, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I just stumbled my way down a mountain head first. It was a lot of fun. I don't know why I was thrust into that. By the way, I'm not trying to rehash old drama, but like, I definitely wasn't like. I've never tried to be like, hey, I'm the arbiter of what should be said or not said on the internet. Now I want to put my head in this. It was all of a sudden, it's like, well, what does Lance think? Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, I
interesting.
get what I mean. I remember what happened. It was unfortunate from your perspective, and I think you were put in a really really tight bind. So I don't think because if I remember, wait, do you mind me going over it?
Not sure, whatever.
So if I remember correctly, because it has been a little while,
Hmm.
Destiny had his big N-word saga shit, which led to a falling out with a ton of left-leaning content creators on Twitch, and one of those, I guess he had already had a falling out with this person, was Mike from PA, and
Hmm.
afterwards he had had some drama circulating with Mike from PA, which pertained in some way to an accusation that Mike from PA was being like doxxed or revealed unfairly, and you talked with Destiny about it, but Mike from PA's arguments were fairly unsubstantial, but you were there like defending a friend, so you were in a very awkward position where backing off would impugn him, but like
Wow, very generous of you, Vosh, all across the board. What it basically was is when he did that whole Godsony show where there was like 27,000 people watching it, and he was just ripping into every single leftist on every platform that ever existed.
yeah.
I was watching that as like, I'm someone who's been bullied. I fight bullies, and I was just like, well, this seems like David versus Goliath. This enormous streamer who's got 27,000 people watching, going after all these small lefties. I'm gonna call into Destiny, and I'm gonna stand up for each and every one of them, right? And just obviously falling headfirst into something that is indefensible. And honestly, I didn't like the look of that entire stream for a number of reasons, but one, I ended up getting into an argument with Destiny over like his own friendships, and like, who the fuck am I to talk about personal relationships? Like, I told him at the time, I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, I've said afterwards that I was like, that was what I felt was just a bad look. I regret it. I shouldn't have talked to you about your personal relationships. Like, I don't know you. I don't know these people, right? It was bad. But anyways, I lived. He removed my spine surgically, but now without a spine, I can do things I never could before. I've mastered the art of self-fellatio. I've seen what spines do to men. They're terrible things. They're curses structures. All right, so I'm better off for it.
I
Josh.
think
I'll say
no,
that
I
much.
think I think you grew a new one, and it's more limber, perhaps, and stronger than the last one. I'm very
Yeah,
much of
it's
that
more
opinion.
flexible.
God, I do. I've said this a million times before, and it maybe comes like a little like weird or whatever. God, I wish I wasn't banned for Twitch during all that. I so would have liked to have been a part of that. For blood or for glory, all that fucking drama in the streamer sector happening, like it's like literally like my face pressed up against the glass window of like a candy shop, as everyone inside is having so much fun, and I'm just out here, so frustrating. God.
Does it feel like you're on a different island sometimes?
Yeah, it does. This really upsets me. It actually makes me sad sometimes. I know there are people who I could have on my platform, like if I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to. Obviously, of course you can come on if you want, Lumi and such. I do my show or stream a little bit differently than a lot of other streamers, where I try to like plan out like at least 3 segments for each stream, so I have stuff to turn into YouTube clips because I release so often. But there are no talk shows. There's no broader sense of community here on YouTube. And I can't even commune with the folks on Twitch because they don't get to stream while I'm talking to them, which means they have a disincentivization from talking to me at all. It's so frustrating. I feel so left out,
Yeah. No, I felt the same way when I was banned for watching you.
There you go. That's how it feels. I'm spreading the love. Now everyone can know.
If you wanted, would you host debates and or conversations with people from the Twitchosphere? Because I'm connected with most of them. Like, I know you and Mike from PA, for example, probably don't see eye to eye on this whole Joe Biden thing. So if you ever wanted me to set that up, I probably could.
Yeah, no, I would. It's not that I'm unwilling to. It's that I'm really trying to temper my Bernie or Bush shit a little bit. I keep this.
Yeah.
I like intellectually. I realize like I should shut the fuck up about this until after Milwaukee because the material circumstances are going to change so much. Bernie still might be able to extract more concessions from Biden with the the delegates that he's gotten, like stuff like that, you know. But then I see like a bad take on Twitter and I lose my shit. So I'm really trying. The only person I'd be willing to debate on Bernie or Bust right now would have been Kyle Kulinski, because Kyle Kulinski is literally like the fucking ringleader of this shit, next to like the Chapo boys, basically. But he declined. So I think I'm gonna try and lay low. I'm trying to lay low for a little bit. Wait a few months. I'm gonna see if people move over on their own. If not, I'll try and drag them on my own.
Do you not feel that this is like an extremely online problem?
It is. It's just the intellectual inconsistency bothers me so much.
Yeah, and me too. Trust me. Not just that. Like I get fucking pissed off every single time I log on to Twitter from both sides where someone posts like a spicy take. But then like if I take a couple seconds to like look back, I'm like, is this actually something that people like normies, like people on the street, does like, or the electorate in general, are they actually having this argument, or is it just people on the left who are just trying to cannibalize each other right now?
The main worry I have is like let's imagine how many Americans are real leftists. I would be willing to bet probably in the ballpark of 2 to 4% of Americans are anarchist, socialist, or are so far SOCDEM that they're like one like reading session away from being a socialist. This is a very small group of people, but we have something going for us. We're right, and everyone else sucks. So what I'd like is if we could have this cohesive strategy for building popular support. And in my mind, what this means is working within the Democratic Party, using economically populist arguments to reach out to Republicans, while also showing Democrats that their values aren't being filled by the DNC. And we use this momentum given to us by Bernie Sanders to build a larger popular support base until we're large enough that we can demand real concessions. And in my mind, all of these huge online lefties like Kyle Kulinski or Chapo Boys or whatever are killing that momentum by juxtaposing their Bernie or Bust accelerationist rhetoric with the DNC's unified will to oust Trump, meaning that we're only going to ostracize ourselves further from the people who we need to convert if we want to be really politically relevant down the road. It really upsets me. It feels like for every drop of good I do, they take like a giant shit in like the pool. You know what I mean? I feel, yeah. So that's my frustration. It is an online problem, but I don't know.
No, totally. But hey, there's a lot of good points there. A lot of stuff I want to unpack. One of the big ones being that like, this is still really fresh, right? Like I think some people forget about that, but it was only like less than a week and a half ago that like he officially endorsed Biden. Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, there's this element of like, a lot of people are still very hurt, and they're especially hurt by the whole, you know, Bernie not only dropping out, but dropping out and endorsing Biden so quickly without actually getting any like, you know, tangible things in exchange. And I completely sympathize with that, right? As someone who worked so much with the Bernie Sanders campaign, especially as like a foreign agent, I was texting for him, I was making mobile games for him, I was making commercials for him. Like I get the sadness and the frustration. I think it's like, why right away does everyone need to be bent? Like, why not give all those lefties who are basically like, I don't know what to do yet, a little time to even, I don't know, heal their wounds?
No, I know. I agree. Like I said, like waiting until the material circumstances have coalesced a little bit more would probably be a better idea. It's just, so this is something I don't have like a set answer on because I don't actually know. Is it better to nip this in the bud early or late? The later we wait, the less emotionally invested people are going to be, the less hurt people are going to be from Bernie dropping out, which, well, he hasn't dropped out, but from Bernie suspending his campaign, which sucks. But the longer I wait, I feel like that gives more time for people like Kulinski to reach others. I feel like my goal right now should be to try and do top-down stuff. If I can approach people like Kulinski or other big like Bernie or Busters, that's good to do now. They have a responsibility to their platform. But it's probably not a good idea to go like running around on Twitter like individually arguing with the tens of thousands of people, because like the capacity they have to like spread those ideas is much weaker than that of like a large content creator.
Sure, and I think it's going to be counterproductive in the long run. Like as an olive branch to those kind of people, I think when they're reaching out to all these people, like I could never tell a victim of sexual assault to vote for Joe Biden. You know, like that's not my place. And there's a lot of other situations similar to that. Really, actually?
Oh yeah, unquestionably. The voting has nothing to do with your personal endorsement or your moral status. It's just a utilitarian decision to maximize outcomes. It doesn't matter what your personal experiences are. Everyone should vote for Biden.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I personally could not tell someone who had gone through that, like, hey, you have to vote for Biden or you
Oh,
shouldn't.
sure,
Like,
but that's not a moral consideration so much as a I really don't want to open this can of worms slash upset somebody consideration, which is reasonable.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, of
That's
course.
reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then one of the things I want to talk to you about is what is the best path forward? Do you want to do it from a top-down perspective? Because you are someone with a very large platform. You obviously want to talk to people and reach out to them, and you want to talk to other people with huge platforms and get them on board. Well, at the same time, oh, thank you, Adrian. At the same time, have you talked a lot about maybe infecting the Democratic Party from within? Like getting people to run in all levels of government, getting people to run for comptroller, for mayor, for city council, until we get to a point where there isn't just one AOC, there isn't just one Shahid, there's a fucking army of them. Like the DNC is no longer a little peppered progressives; it's a fucking party of crypto socialists who are now like, hey, by the way, we are the DNC.
Yeah, absolutely. I want that more than anything else. This is one of the biggest issues with progressives or lefties historically. It's they don't give a fuck about local organization, and then they bid it all in a presidential election. It's really frustrating. This is what we have to learn from Bernie Sanders. The fact that Bernie Sanders got as far as he did is a huge testament to his, his charisma, his platform, and that's all good and valid and great and stuff. But even if Bernie Sanders won the presidency, we still have we keep the same Senate. We keep the same Congress.
Yeah,
Supreme
that's when the
Court
work begins.
Yeah. The governors are still the way they are. Like that's not enough. And the worst part is the presidency is the place where we're most disadvantaged because that's where money and capital flow the most freely. If we're talking about local elections, people running for Congress, and we'll get to people who are socialists running for Congress, I imagine, to people who are running for the Senate.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Running for mayorship. People are running for city council even. Like this ground level stuff. This is what it means to be the institution. Bernie Sanders could have spent 8 years in the Oval Office and left still a maverick. The political institutions are built from experts with decades of knowledge and working within the system. That's where we need lefties. Not some glorious hero waving the flag from atop the White House, but incredibly intelligent, dedicated people with a good grounding in political science, working within until eventually one day people like Pelosi in the DNC wake up and realize that 30 to 40% of their constituency is openly calling for like socialism. And at that point, the party is ours because our arguments are better than theirs.
And what about combining that with other tactics? Like, do you advocate for a lot of I don't know, mutual aid or people making organizations, or have you been involved with like the general strike or the rent strike or any of those kind of things?
Yeah.
By the way, this is not a call out. I'm just asking. Like, neither of us have a lot of time to watch 24/7 content of each other.
No, of course, yeah. No, 100%, yeah. I am not participating in the rent strike at the moment because I have heard, I spoke with some. Okay, I haven't come forward with this because it looks like it's super nuanced, but somebody gave me this really compelling historical argument that there are certain types of rent strikes that actually blow back because the material consequences of like attacking the landlord class with you're not paying the thing later ends up like ratcheting back to the poorest people in your area. I want to settle that before I personally engage in it. Also, like I'm pretty wealthy now, so it doesn't hurt me to pay my rent. But there is somebody who I have scheduled to come on in early May, a person who, I forget the city they're in, but they were successful in in getting together their apartment building and then all of the people under a given like housing company up to the point where I think they now have 28,000 people who are participating in a rent strike. Like they were able to organize a city worth of people, which is incredibly fucking cool. And that would be something that I would defend under any circumstances. So I'm going to have that person on. I hope to have a really good convo with them.
No, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, I had my own qualms too. One of the biggest things being is that like it's hard to ask everyone to do a general strike. Like I was trying to equate this, like my mother is she's Métis, which is like First Nations in Canada. And there's a lot of like remote First Nations areas in the country where like they can't just stop work, and it's not like because they don't want to do it or anything like that. It's like the day they do that, they might not receive the supplies they need to live or things like that. I don't know if it has to be ubiquitous. It's these things are really like I agree there should be nuance. I don't even know where I'm going with this right now.
No, it's tough though, right? Because at the end of the day, like rent strikes are a form of accelerationism. You're trying to advance the economic conditions at a possible short-term loss for long-term gain. You reify your power, like, hey, landlord class, like we'll put up with your shit for now, buckos. But hey, if we ever wanted to stop paying rent, we could throw you off our shoulders. You can't evict all of us. And that can be a good thing, but it has to be done very delicately because historically rent strikes have often led to huge fucking blowback in the communities that have attempted them. It's about that public support. And I think right now we have a decent amount of public support. So that's good.
Here's an idea, and I just came up with this. What about trying to push to the people like the Kalinskis or whoever else you're going to be talking to, because you're going to be talking to these big titans of industry. What about telling them you don't have to talk about Joe Biden or enforce Joe Biden? Like, I mean, if we're going to be intellectually honest with each other, yeah, he's a super shitty candidate, right? So you don't have to touch him, but you should now be focusing your energy on taking down or at least attacking the Republicans. Like actually actively being like, so by the way, this is proto-fascism. We can't tolerate this. This is what you always talk about as leftists, that you want to quash it. You are the enemies of the fascists. So why don't we actively engage in that?
Yeah, I think that's what I want. My main issue is, and I said this a little earlier, sometimes I get the feeling lefties hate liberals more than they hate fascists. Like we've
You're not alone.
Yeah, like we say, you know, like scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. I agree with that. I understand the socio-political reasoning behind that, you know.
It's also a funny meme.
It is a funny meme, yeah. But then I go on Twitter and I see people like, you can't make me vote for Biden. Maybe 4 more years of Trump will teach the DNC what it means to fuck with the progressive wing of your party, you stupid shitheads. And I think, like, are we actually kowtowing to fascists to own the libs right now? Is that actually what we're doing? And there are people giving me the anti-SJW gamer bro takes right now. They're like, I don't give a fuck. As long as all these fucking rad libs are angry, as long as I make them upset, that's what I care about. I can't wait to drink your fucking tears when Trump wins the election. I'll show you what it means to put Biden in front of us. I'm never voting for that fucking like, okay, I don't like Biden either. I think we're literally doing the siding with fascists to own the libs thing, though. And what I would encourage people
that is a hell of an own, though. Come on.
It is. And you know what? And I do take some schadenfreude from seeing liberals suffer, but I don't want to live in a fascist state. So I think it's important that we remind ourselves how important and fun it can be to dunk on conservatives. We've been spending the past 6 months in a heated primary. We've been shit-talking Liz. We've been shit-talking Buttigieg. We've been shit-talking Biden and Bloomberg. We've gotten really used to shit-talking people who are in the DNC, and now it's done. The primary is effectively done. We need to refocus our efforts. Let's all team up against Trump, the greatest evil. If we don't want to say positive things about Biden, fine, but let's at least, I'm sorry, I know I'm rambling, but the last thing I'm going to say is...
No, I totally agree with you on this point anyway.
I got a response to one of my tweets recently. I was just talking about the Trump thing, you know, the injecting bleach shit. Yeah, and one of the people said, like, oh my God, listening to Trump talk at these press briefings is the best anti-Bernie or bust argument I've ever seen in my life. I have forgotten how fucking bad this guy is. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to remind ourselves. We need to remember just how horrible the Republicans are. Maybe that will jumpstart people into more agreeable positions. I don't know.
So would you say you're positioning yourself as the bleach in the veins of the left?
My new arc is I'm bullies for Bernie, okay? That's what I'm doing. I want Biden in office so I can spend 4 years bullying liberals, which is what we all seem to like doing the most. It's much more fun when they're in power. We can't bully liberals if it's fucking 2021 and Trump has been crowned as monarch of his second term and the DNC has no power because a red wave swept the country. If we want to bully liberals, we got to get liberals in office first. We got to set our punching bags up before we can have fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, no shit. Like, have you seen what Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are pulling off in face of Trump? Absolutely fucking nothing. Trump is just running a pile driver over all of them, and that's what it's going to be, right? Is the left going to be able to push up against Donald Trump? No, he's going to erode everything that the left ever holds dear. The left is going to be able to push up against, you know, Biden and the Democrats, albeit it won't be incredibly successful, but it's still going to be something, right? Instead of losing your rights, you're actually fighting for them, right?
We can't do anything against Trump. It's been 4 years. He's not going to concede to us. We have literally no political power with the Republicans in office. Biden has already already conceded multiple times to Bernie over the course of the campaign trail. He may yet again in Milwaukee because Bernie hasn't actually dropped out. AOC has extracted concessions with Pelosi as well. We have a lot of power, even as a minority within the DNC, as long as we're able to attain these positions of power and work with the interests of the Democratic constituency. We can influence people. Holy Christ, the squad is 4 women who are now single-handedly, like at least AOC is like the most popular politician in the country with a huge amount of influence over the DNC as a junior congresswoman. What is she, like fucking 32, 33?
Yeah, I think somewhere around there.
Yeah, like that's insane. Matt, we could get more of that. Yeah, let's keep doing it. That seems to be working.
Hey, but by the way, that shit is coming from both sides of the aisle. I see a lot of people who are also like trying to call out, the Bernie or busters more than they are the Trumpers. Like and I mean that about a lot of prominent, whatever you would want to call them, like Dem socks or lefties on Twitter. But a lot of them are spending most of their time being like Bernie or busters to own the libs, Trump 24 to own the libs, like, blue left MAGAs or whatever. That's another problem online. Like, I think everyone should be targeting Trump now, instead of focusing on.
I saw the funniest fucking meme about this, but I'm not going to find it. It's so pertinent. It was like political compass memes, and it was like 2 people crying in the lip left corner, like, oh, Bernie lost. This sucks. You know what it'd show them? Bernie or bust. Except one of them is actually crying, and the other's wearing a crying mask, but they're doing the smug Wojak underneath, and they're actually like alt-right, like, doesn't it suck Bernie's gone? Guess we better go Bernie or bust. Like, okay, like I get it. And it's funny to me, except it does make me want to kill myself. You know how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think that like I still think this is an incredibly online discourse, and I think it's one that is honestly less productive than it is. Like, we should move past this, like past the hey, let's destroy all the Bernie or busters. Let's destroy every single one of them online, and honestly start teaming up against Trump, or at least trying to take down Trump.
Yeah, Trump is really.
I just saw it on your screen.
Yeah, no, it's pretty funny. Trump is really bad. We've all gotten so insulated from this discourse. Like, we all make the jokes like, wow, Orange Man bad. Wow, liberals have such an insubstantial criticism of fascism. Wow, oh, what a radical take. Orange Man bad. Well, but like, Orange Man actually is bad. I feel like we've gone too far in this direction. He's actually bad. Like, that's true, though. And we need to act like it is. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess, so my main issue from now on, I've been very emotionally compromised by the Bernie or bust discourse because it frustrates me to no end. It really does upset me, but I care about rhetoric, and I care about presentation, and I care about outcome, so I'm going to try and find ways to frame this discussion in very positive, non-judgmental ways. A lot of BO busters get fucking super, like, crybaby, like, oh, you're vote shaming me, which is weird because, like, no shit, when we tell people not to vote for Trump, which we've been doing for the past 4 years, 5 years, we are also vote shaming them. I don't know why you suddenly mind when it's being turned around on you, maybe because you know your position is untenable, but I want to focus on like meme arguments that get people on board. Let's bully Biden for 4 years, get grandpa in office, and then break his kneecaps, rhetorically speaking. People will get less upset over that, I think.
That would be a nice thing to say, though. Like, the day after the election is when we just get to go full force against Biden.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Because that would be the whole point, right?
If Biden... Oh, you kidding? People are like, oh, wow, you're cucked by the DNC. Bitch, if Biden wins, I am spending the next 4 years of my life railing again. I will... The degree of ruthlessness and savagery that I've expressed in this platform barely compares to what I will unleash. I haven't had a chance to be a YouTuber with a Democrat in office. It's all been Trump. That's been the whole time. We've gotten used to that.
That's true, actually. Me too.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Back when Obama was in office, I was a leftist, but I wasn't engaged the way I am now. And the left was asleep back during Obama because a lot of fucking people who hadn't yet been radicalized, thanks Bernie Sanders for tipping the scales on that, thought that Obama was going to be like the progressive leader to institute change. And he turned out just to be like a charismatic jock who wanted to, usurp progressive rhetoric to be essentially an establishment Democrat. And the left, they snore. The closest thing we had to the left was like an anti-war movement that was left over from Bush's days, but that wasn't enough, and that doesn't address enough of the issue. Occupy Wall Street was a joke. Now that we're awake, really awake, I want to see what we can do to a Democratic president. I want to see what our power can show.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that really saddens me is I know you're the fan of history, right? You
I try to be. It can be a little dry reading sometimes, but I've been doing a lot of reading up lately, particularly on the Weimar Republic. Yeah. Why?
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't mean that far back, but I just mean the fact that, like, in the United States, especially, like, you know, I'm preaching to the converted here, but wages have stagnated, the cost of living has risen, the conditions for most people are getting shittier and worse. You know, suicide rates are going up, drug addiction is going up. No matter which way you look at it, the pendulum going back and forth between Democrat, Republican, it's not ameliorating the conditions of the worker. It's not ameliorating the conditions of everyday people, right?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is your pushback against that? Because that, to me, is a very convincing argument for, like, it doesn't matter who's in power. My argument, of course, is like, well, yes, but I still don't want a fascist in power, so I'm going to fight against the fascists. But at the same time, nothing is changing, right? Things are actually getting demonstrably worse every year.
Are you ready for the
Yes.
best argument you've ever heard in your life?
I am, yeah.
Okay, good. One moment. I'm going
Are
to
you pulling it up? Is this you haven't prepared?
I'm gonna. Yeah.
I've heard you. I've heard of this before.
I'm going to read this out loud. It's going to take a second, but I strongly encourage you and everyone else to listen. I'm not trying to be self-important because these are not my words.
No, of course.
However much that state of things may have altered during the last 25 years, the general principles laid down in the manifesto are, on the whole, as correct today as ever. Here and there, some detail might be improved. The practical application of the principles will depend, as the manifesto itself states, everywhere and at all times, on the historical conditions for the time being existing, and, for that reason, no special stress is laid on the revolutionary measures proposed at the end of Section 2. That passage would, in many respects, be very differently worded today. In view of the gigantic strides of modern industry since 1848, and of the accompanying improved and extended organization of the working class, in view of the practical experience gained, first in the February Revolution, and then still more in the Paris Commune, where the proletariat for the first time held political power for 2 whole months, this program has in some details been antiquated. One thing especially was proved by the Commune, viz., that the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. See the Civil War in France, address of the General Council of the International Working Men's Association, 1871, where this point is further developed. Further, it is self-evident that the criticism of socialist literature is deficient in relation to the present time because it comes down only to 1847, also that the remarks on the relation of the communists to various opposition parties, Section 4, although in principle still correct, yet in practice are antiquated, because the political situation has been entirely changed and the progress of history has swept off of the earth the greater portion of the political parties there enumerated. But then, the manifesto has become a historical document which we no longer have any right to alter. A subsequent edition may perhaps appear with an introduction bridging that gap from 1847 to the present day, but this reprint was too unexpected to leave us time for that. This is Karl Marx saying that he once believed that you should be able to engage in accelerationism along political lines. But afterwards, after the Paris Commune, he made a speech where he said accelerationism should only be applied to economic matters, as that is the driving force of class antagonism, and that accelerationism in political and electoral landscapes only serves to hinder the possibility of true revolutionary action by making the political landscape such that any revolution would result in violent state shutdown. In essence, by engaging in political accelerationism, by putting people like Trump in office, it means that we have no ability to meaningfully organize, or we hurt our ability to organize, because such a government is more likely to put us down in the infancy of a proletarian uprising than a democratic presidency would, in our terms. So Karl Marx, after the Paris Commune, would be very much against the concept of burn your bust.
I agree with you. My first thought is that anyone tuning into this for the first time must think that this is the greatest exercise in masturbation that has ever been done.
I know, but it's like, so...
What the fuck? Why isn't Lance talking? Why is Vosh reading fucking Karl Marx verbatim live on the stream? What the fuck is going on?
When I found that, a viewer of mine sent that to me after speaking with me. I think that's a kill shot right there. Even Karl fucking Marx didn't believe there was any value to political accelerationism. Economic accelerationism, like rent strikes, general strikes, these things he would have supported because they advance the material conditions that lead to the eventual uprising of the proletariat. But The political accelerationism doesn't do that. It puts people who are opposed to our interests in power, which decreases our ability to meaningfully engage in economic accelerationism.
And well, again, masturbatory, because I completely agree with all of that. I don't know if that directly addresses everything that could be said about the fact that the actual conditions of people has been getting demonstrably worse, though, through the same system.
Oh yeah,
right?
so to
if that one is more that like you are never going to win fighting against the fascists. That's the thing that we've been saying since the start of this talk, right?
yeah, so to synthesize, my argument would be that the reason conditions have been getting worse is because of the advancing material dialectic and the approach of end state capitalism. But the only chance of us being able to respond meaningfully to that worsening state of conditions is to exist in a political environment that will not stomp down violently our efforts at an uprising. So in essence, if when the day comes that the economic conditions are ripe for revolution, we want to make sure that the people most sympathetic to our cause and as weak as possible are in office. And that would right now be the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I know. There's no pushback from me. We're engaging in full blown masturbation at this
No,
point.
I apologize for the masturbatory. I've been very excited.
I'm joking. Honestly, these things are important because this is the thing that I have to push back against as well, right? Like one of the things when talking to either you or I was going to talk to Destiny about this pretty shortly too, is that like I want to improve my messaging, right? Like I'm going to be having a conversation with Bastier. I think next week about similar to you, right? The downfalls, the pitfalls of neoliberalism, because less that I want to own him in the battlefield of ideas and all that kind of shit. I actually do want to improve my messaging. That is something that I genuinely prize above a lot of other things. So I think that's important, right? I don't know how that went with you. I haven't seen your talk with him yet, but
Bastiat's discussion with me, I think, was fairly mutually productive. I get the feeling Bastiat's a very intelligent and good faith individual. I don't know how receptive he is to counter arguments, though. It could be because we speak in broad generalities. At the moment, I would rather have liberals like Bastiat working alongside me against fascism than I would like than I would like some lefties who seem to be doing like everything in their power to compromise the ability for leftism to thrive in this country. So I generally think well of Bastiat, though obviously I have substantial disagreements with him.
What's the roadblock for the neoliberalism argument? Because I've had a number of debates with neoliberals who kind of treat me like a child. Like you just don't understand the way the world works. If you did, you understand how we lower things like poverty and war and other things through the use of global neoliberalism. And I'll say, and I usually respond with, well, in certain cases that can't be true, but I'll tell you this: it usually benefits the West, right? We get to extract minerals and resources from parts of Africa in exchange. We don't necessarily benefit them financially. I mean, it does usually funnel a lot of money into the hands of the very few. That's basically what the whole system is set up to do.
Yeah. I mean, my main issue, this is the thing that really gets me. I think it's fundamentally unethical to expect the average person to have to sell their labor to an authoritarian firm in order for them to be able to survive in our society. That to me is the greatest crime. There are ways to invoke the value of global trade that compensate for the harm we do to developing countries. An intelligent and reasonable and moral person could find ways to make arguments for those things. And I, in fact, have, because I am a globalist or an internationalist or whatever people prefer to call me. I do believe there's value to global trade if done well. But the fundamental inequality of 90, 95, 98% of the people in our country, and even more in other countries, having to submit themselves for 40 hours a week or more to an authoritarian enterprise in which their boss has absolute control over their well-being and they have no control over their environment. This is an immorality. It's an unjust action. Like it's unbelievable to me. There's a reason why leftists call it wage slavery, because it follows in the same fundamental like material practices of traditional slavery. It's not as bad, obviously, but the same sentiment is basically the same. And I don't think being paid as a slave and being able to choose your master and being insured from being able to be beaten necessarily makes slavery moral.
Mm-hmm. And what's his defense against that?
What would Bastiat's defense be?
Well, what was it? You guys probably brought that up, right?
I don't think that neoliberals fundamentally consider this to be unethical. I think they prefer they prefer the freedom of the business owner and their ability to control others over the freedom of the worker and their ability to meaningfully make decisions in their life and their economic like environment. That's like the stumbling block. I need to think of new ways to make these arguments. I don't think they respond to that like moral thing, but that's the difference, though. That's the difference that defines like socialist sort of motivations. It's a moral outrage at certain elements of the mode of production. So I don't know. It's something I'll have to think about. But Bastiat is a good partner in conversation.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Speaking of bad partners, we should probably open up that can of worms because I do want to talk to you a little bit about messaging. I'm guessing you wanted to bring up certain lefty politicians. I mean, we don't have to name names, but
no, we can. I think it would be fair to. Do you, wait, do you want to? Are we talking about the same person?
Fucking awkwardly skirting around the issue.
Yeah, we can talk about him.
Okay.
Yeah, guys in chat, hypers if you saw at least part of the discussion with Joshua Collins.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a 2-second delay, but I'm guessing I'm gonna.
We know. I feel so bad about this. I feel like partially responsible.
I too have interviewed him, by the way. I've spoken to Joshua. I know you have as well. And in those two conversations, because I haven't seen yours, but everyone said like, yeah, he comes across, way more charitable in that conversation. With mine, it was just a lovely talk, right?
Mm-hmm. But same. I just had a pleasant conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that single-handedly ended his political career.
Wait, can I share my thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure, go next.
Okay. I am of the opinion that Joshua Collins is in. What happened? I'll fucking tell you guys. Jesus. Wait, actually, yeah, I guess I'll explain. I had Joshua Collins on stream. We talked. He's a good guy, and I stand by this. I think he's a good, morally upstanding person who cares about the things that he believes in, and I think the things he believes in are good and just. And I had a conversation with him. I didn't challenge him at all because I didn't feel a need to. We just discussed like local organizing and the like. And then Joshua got on a Bernie or Bust debate panel where Destiny was there. Destiny, not being as willing to get along with the lefties as myself, challenged him, and he fell apart like a house of cards. He looked like a buffoon. He like no policy inclinations, no broader understanding of political theory. Just a complete inability to like come off as worthy of being a congressional candidate. Destiny was holding back too. At certain points, like Destiny's chat was spamming like no bully because it was like getting really bad. You should watch it. It's a 3-hour like panel, but man, I think it's valuable for us to like watch.
I'm going to harsh disagree with you. You should not watch it. It's very painful to get through. Holy shit.
This is my contention. Like this is what hurts me.
Okay.
I care above all winning good outcomes. That's what I care about. For me, challenging leftists when I have them on my stream, hey, are you consistent on this and this? For one, I recognize that very few people are going to be able to withstand my scrutiny if I try hard enough, because it is my job to be good at rhetoric. Well, politicians too, but not in the same way.
Yeah, but those are the best of what they do, especially you and Destiny. If you don't have any media experience, especially, it is very intimidating. Like I know I've spoken to Destiny about this. He's like, I often feel that like I don't get honest conversations out of people because they're too intimidated by the way when I turn it up to 11 kind of thing, right? When y'all go into beast mode.
Yeah, example. I mean, well, it's our job. And I learned a ton from Destiny. And one of the things that I respected most from Destiny after I was banned from Twitch, when he began his anti-left arc, is that he was, I think, bringing some very legitimate criticisms to a lot of online lefties who I thought had fairly bankrupt arguments. And I liked that. I liked it when he kind of like took down like Mike from CCP multiple times in a protracted fashion. I liked it when he criticized like Peter Coffin. I like these. Not because I like seeing lefties suffer, but because I like seeing us grow. And I personally grow from substantial criticism. I believe all of us should be able to. With that said, Joshua got torn apart by Destiny. And like,
well, to be fair, by everyone, like that's the only thing that I didn't like about that. It was a fucking 5-on-1. That wasn't a panel. That was like, they brought him there for the slaughter. The person who was on that panel, who was supposedly an alleged communist, was
so much to dogpiling Collins, yeah. Oh man, but yeah, dude, she was going hard too. Like, you kind of make socialism look like a joke. When people think of socialism, they think it's a joke because of people like you. Holy shit! Like,
I know, and that's the hard thing, is like I'm hard pressed to disagree with that, because it does look like a meme. Like, the word has lost so much meaning when every single person who is either Demsoc or what have you is like, oh yeah, I'm a socialist, and it's like, well, what do you believe? I think that we shouldn't have to work. It's like, what? It's like, all right, I think that I shouldn't have to pay rent. It's like,
abolish the CIA.
Okay, well, so do you traditionally define yourself as a socialist? Did you have that in the connotations that have been applied? Do you think of it as a stepping stone towards communism? Do you know the difference between communism and socialism? Do you know the difference between socialism and libertarian socialism, as anarchist? Like, all these kind of things. And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, or like being able to even name their policies, because someone's like, hey, Joshua, name like some policies, and he like Googles his own like policy list on his website, and he's like, I like community armor memories for guns. Like that, see, because, and I want people in chat to understand, what I do is very good and acceptable for being a YouTuber. What I do is unacceptable for being a politician. Politicians, in addition to not talking about horsecock or whatever, also need to be able to
speak for yourself.
yeah. Politicians need to have a very specific policy knowledge that I don't engage in. I don't tend to engage with the nuances of policy. Destiny was the perfect person to criticize Joshua because that's something Destiny is more interested in than myself. But even though I personally tend to focus on broader ideological arguments, that doesn't mean I don't think politicians shouldn't be able to do that nitpicky policy stuff because that's their fucking job. My hurt personally here is I was happy when Destiny called out these bad faith lefties like late last year. I was like, damn, you know what? Good. Get the grifters out of our ranks, you know, like show them up, like encourage them to grow. But when I had Joshua on, I didn't challenge him, which means that I participated in the exact same process of empty, shallow bolstering that leads to lefties being like that. I did the same thing.
When you bring on a politician who's trying to further your own political ideology, you're not in a position where you have to criticize them, though. That's different, right?
Yeah, that's my thought. Like, I shouldn't criticize this guy. Maybe if I debated him hard enough, I could get him on a few points. But do I like why? I could do the same thing with any Republican or any Democrat, fucking a Washington congressional candidate who wants to come on. I'm pretty sure I could like beat all of them, like because they don't do what I do. So why would I take this chance to push down the one guy who agrees with me? But now I'm thinking...
that's my point.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking, like, fuck. Am I part of the problem by being unwilling to criticize these media figures that I'm proud to get on? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. Do I go with meaningless, like, empty platitudes where I just serve as, like, a promotional argument for them? Or do I try to challenge him and really see if he's the real deal? I don't know. Do you have an answer?
Here's something interesting, and this is a very slight anecdote, but it might answer the question a bit. When I came onto a panel on Twitch, one of the people on that panel said, "Hey, by the way, Lance, it's so nice to meet you. Your YouTube channel and all those videos you do on Steven Crowder and all those right wingers, that's what pulled me away from the right wing and made me want to become a leftist." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He's like, "But I'm not a leftist." I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "From speaking to other leftists on Twitch." Which was like a huge come to Jesus moment for me, because I was just like, wait, what exactly did you mean by that? He's like, it's a mix of so much LARPing, right? There's like, you know, I'm X, I'm blank, I do this, you know, and at the same time I don't believe in that or this, and it's like, well, do you have a practical answer to any of this? It's like, no, I don't, but you know, ACAB, guillotine, and then you know, eat the rich and all that kind of stuff. And that to me was really important because I've heard you say this, and I'm of the same mind. I don't just do this for entertainment, and obviously I love my job, and I love entertaining people, and that's like, you know, it gives me life and gives me orgasms and all that wonderful stuff. But at the end of the day, I do want to further leftism, or I want to be a public advocate with a purpose, right? Like I do want the left to win ultimately. Like this is, you know, it's not just a platform or a game for me. There has to be more to this. So immediately that moment made me think, well, I have to first, I don't know, better myself. I have to improve my messaging, of which I still have fucking an ever-ending struggle to do that, right? But I have to be able to answer questions. I have to be able to answer a tangible question, as in like, how are you going to effectively enact change? How are you going to achieve this future that you keep talking about, right? So I think that is something that not only every leftist has to do, but they're more so that you have to weed out those amongst you who don't have any ideas, or maybe don't associate with them, but you as a person with a massive platform has to work on that constantly, right?
Yeah, I wonder like how much of the left is like that. So this could my autism is screaming at me right now. I set a very high standard for intellectual consistency. It matters so much to me. It drives me fucking crazy. You can ask my girlfriend, like, holy shit. Wait, my girlfriend does something inconsiderate or rude to me, like I sleep, you know. My girlfriend defends her behaviors in a way that is not logically consistent. Like I awoken. It gets me. I don't know. Big red eyes. So with the online lefties, I worry that's like a lot of them. And I don't know if that's the case for every political discipline. Because, and I hate to say it, a lot of the liberals that I talk to, the ones who do like political shows or whatever, are pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah, they know their shit.
Yeah. And
They often do.
now when I bring conservatives on, none of them know their shit. I've never talked to a smart conservative, not one. Ever.
Not just conservative. If you even go further to the right of conservative, once you get into the weird alt-righting stuff, that's when you're just like, how the fuck are you guys so popular? Like I fucking ripped into Gavin McInnes last Saturday because I had the privilege of getting into a call-in show with him. And I was just like astounded. I was like, you are a fucking asinine as fuck. I can't understand a word you're saying right now. How are you so popular? How are any of them so popular? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I mean, it's deeply
the bar is zero.
Broken people, yeah. So I'll never make the argument there are conservatives who are intelligent because holy shit, no, they're not. But when it comes to liberals versus lefties, I feel like I keep interacting with like say what you like about Destiny, and I disagree with him on a lot of stuff. That dude probably is the best like the fucking avatar of liberal like rhetoric on the internet right now in all likelihood, or I guess omniliberal, whatever the fuck he likes to go by, you know. And he gatekeeps the fuck out of people who argue with him, maybe to our benefit because it showcases who's worthy of consideration and who's not. I don't know if I know many leftists who fill that role. I think I'm intellectually consistent. And then like people like, for example, like Sean, like of Sean and Jen, post videos that are extraordinarily good with incredibly well researched. And I look at that and I think, this is phenomenal. Nice. But then I see some of Sean's Twitter takes and I think, oh God, oh my God, can I even trust the videos anymore? So I really worry.
I don't know if it's that far. I don't think any of the amazing work that Sean has done on the bell curve is all of a sudden, you know, rendered moot because of the Bernie bust stuff.
I'm being hyperbolic here. The video he did on the bell curve is like extraordinary, like unbelievably.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And Twitter does make people who use Twitter stupider. I recognize there's a doling element there, but I guess what I want, like this is what I want more than anything else. I want strength in the left. And I don't mean this in some weird fascist, like we all need to be ripplingly muscular and have no friends or any of that shit. I mean strength in that we need to be able to work together, have common goals, have a long-term and short-term set of you know, destinations we're trying to work together towards. And we all need to have good, internally consistent positions that we can defend effectively. That's what I want more than anything else. So God, I want that so badly. And I don't know if we have that. I feel like we're a while away from that. Every time I get my hopes up, I think like, oh, the Chapo boys, they're going to be the unifying element of the left. They're intelligent and they've got good political analysis. And then like something happens and they go off the rails too. And it feels like this just happens time and time again.
Well, what about the whole each according to their ability though? Right? Because like, you know, there's some people who wear a lot of hats. There's some people who are just really good at one thing. There's some people like, you know, in your case, you know, you have kind of proven yourself to be incredibly good at, you know, debate, rhetoric, all that kind of stuff.
No need to butter my bread. I'm okay at it. Thank you.
Yeah. But at the same time, Chapo is fucking hilarious, right? Like, you know, there's just other people who will never be as funny as Chapo, no matter how hard they try. And that serves a purpose too. Like sometimes I don't want to just listen to shitty news. I want to just, you know, unplug and listen to Chapo rip into people I hate, you know, and that has a purpose as well. I don't think every single leftist has to be a monolith.
I agree with that. No. And the Chapo boys are very funny and they do a lot of really good stuff and they've contributed to the radicalization wave that Bernie Sanders kind of caught up on, that started and then rode. I guess my concern would be this. I'm okay with different elements of the left having different interests and pushing different types of rhetoric and even disagreeing with each other on stuff, as long as collectively they're working towards a shared goal. I consider the Bernie or bust stuff, I hate to keep bringing it up, and maybe I'll address this more substantively in the future or after I've taken more time to consider it, but right now the Bernie or bust stuff, like the division between people who are pushing for Biden and people who are pushing for abstaining from a vote, this is an unacceptable division to me, because in my mind, the way forward for the left, real political power, involves working intelligently within the framework of the DNC. People who are fighting against that are, to me, people who are fighting against everyone, not just me. I mean, I'll be fine if Trump wins a second fucking term, unless he starts culling the queers from society, which I imagine we're at least a decade away from. In the next 4 years, I'll be fine. I worry about other people a lot. But yeah, I want us to all work together. I just want us to have like a shared direction. We all need to agree on a few things, okay? Capitalism is cringe. That's one. Two, just because
Spicy takes, bro.
Yeah, I know. Just because capitalism is cringe doesn't mean the existing economic framework isn't very complicated and shouldn't be treated with respect. That's very important. You can't just go like, "Oh, capitalism sucks. Let's just break it." Like, no. We need to be able to intelligently dismantle the system from within. And three, progressivism matters. Not just class reductionist bullshit. We need to advance the rights, women, minorities, gay people. You all know the fucking spiel. If we can agree on those things and fundamentally back that up with a common strategy, I won't ever complain.
I agree. Yeah, and like that's why class reductionists piss me off. Just as much sometimes as like the libs, right? Like I don't want to hear anyone say that like until capitalism's over, well, none of us will be free, and so we have to end capitalism in its entirety before we can talk about things like trans
fucking
rights.
Idiots.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, what the fuck, man?
Sorry,
like,
I
you must be in a pretty privileged
that.
position to do that because there's people suffering in the here and now. So let's also ameliorate the conditions for everybody who's living, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's just I've never had a lower opinion of the left. The left was so cool to me. The left was so fucking cool to me back before I started doing this. But now that I'm looking like down on a lot of communities rather than up from those communities, I can see some serious like structural problems. Like
I'm looking down.
Okay,
Zeus.
No. Shut up. From a position of prominence, you know what I mean.
I'm joking.
You know what I mean.
From high on mountainside.
From a position of prominence, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so like the Chapo community, not the podcasters, but the subreddit. I used to think like this is the future of the left. They're angry, they're argumentative, they're cool, they're edgy, they're irreverent, but they're progressive socialists. But now I like look at it a little bit more. They are filled with A, class reductionists, like a lot of them, and B, with a lot of deeply irrational, like anger-driven people. Like some of the stuff they post in there, like actually makes me uncomfortable. Not because I'm sensitive, but because like do we have like unironic sociopaths in our community? Like unironically, like antisocial disorder people who are just in it because they like expressing like violent anger against people. That I don't want people to be a part like socialist advocates because they're acting out of anger that stems from their alienation. I want people to have a more disciplined approach towards their advocacy.
Yeah, of course. Can I have a question when it comes to messaging? You just said that you're autistic, right?
Yeah.
What did you feel about the defense that was being put forward? Because this is not something I can directly speak on. That Joshua, the way he was reacting to what everyone was saying, using the autism defense.
Yeah, so for chat, if you don't know, at one point, I don't think we saw this on stream together, but at one point, like, Joshua used the fact that he is autistic as an explanation for his inability to effectively respond to certain, criticisms he was receiving. I think that it's harsh. I think there is one line through which it's valid. And that is him interpreting questions literally. If somebody asks, hey, Joshua, can you provide 3 policies? And he just lists off 3 policies and like doesn't elaborate on them, that could conceivably be a product of autism because it can sometimes kill the nuance in understanding like a request. But the broader implication wasn't that it was just his literal interpretation that was a product of autism. It was his like inability to come up with good counter arguments, and that I think is fucking horseshit. I'm clearly myself fine with coming up with counter arguments, and frankly, if your particular brand of autism, because it differs from person to person, of course, if your particular brand of autism impedes your ability to advocate your policies, that's probably a sign you shouldn't be in the politics game, my dude. If that's actually how it invokes itself in your personal, behavioral patterns, I don't know if that means you should be running for office. It bothered me a little bit.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I wanted to ask this. I wanted to ask somebody about that. About the messaging, or I guess just you were trying to find some kind of universal, I don't know, leftism. Like everyone who's working on the same team has to kind of, I don't want to say abide by these rules, but basically would have a shared set of values or principles, right? Is that something I could say is fair?
Yeah. I don't want to agree with everyone on the left. It's never going to happen. It seems like lazy and boring anyway.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true. what would you feel that we would start doing to try and achieve that? Like, what exactly do you have things set in mind? Is it basically, because we've spoken about a lot of things in this convo, right? Like, we want to have, obviously, mutual aid is very important. You've said that you're already working on that, or advocacy towards that. And I think another thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, and something that should be doing, I mean, this is not going to be appropriate for right now, but it's fucking IRL stuff. I don't think enough people, especially public policy advocates like you or me, do that, or at least speak towards that. I think that has to be something the left engages in a lot more as well.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can't do that right
yeah,
now.
I will. Here's my personal rebuttal. I think if anyone on left online at any point tries to indicate that I'm a bad leftist because I'm not going outside enough, I will dedicate my entire public platform to ruining that person's life. I am never leaving this house. I don't care. I didn't like leaving the house before fucking YouTube. I don't like doing it now. I'm a cozy ass boy here in my chair, and this is where I'm staying. You fucking extroverts can go out there and do the outside stuff. Okay, I'll stay here and be effective.
Once again, that's within your ability, right? To each according to their ability. There are people who can do that. There are people who can leave the house, and there are people who never want to fucking leave their house.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it has to be both.
Yeah,
but I still think that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. What I want to say in response to your initial point, with my Blith criticism, or I guess Blith joke aside, is this is what I believe in, okay? I think this is something that the alt-right does spectacularly, okay? This is their power. They do it better than we do. So much better. They have overlapping circles of influence with a common goal, and even if there are internal disagreements, the boundaries of their overlap are such that people who disagree with each other don't argue with one another. So I frequently argue with woke scoldy types, or at least I have historically. I don't think that these people are necessarily bad. I feel like their strategies are ineffective and that they're personally obnoxious, but I mean, Godspeed. Like, if we're talking like moral character, I'd rather a woke scold leftist than any other political disposition. They're lefties. Like, they're my comrades. But sometimes I feel like their advocacy is a little bit counterproductive. And likewise, I respect and acknowledge arguments that my railing against them can sometimes also be similarly counterproductive. What I would like is a shared recognition. Hey, woke scoldy types, more sensitive types, you get your communities. You get to be in Lumiru's chat. Not to say Lumiru's or woke scold or anything, but like, that's a fairly sensitive community. And you can have a great time there. And for my edgier leftists, who maybe sometimes like saying the R slur, or Lumi, I'm not insulting you. You do a wonderful thing. I'm not.
Oh,
okay.
Is Lumi in your chat right now? Hey, Lumi, how's it going?
I'm not, okay, well, we can interpret that. Okay. Well, it was meant to be pragmatic. Whatever the case is. And I have edgier leftists in my community. My rule is as edgy as me, but no edgier. That's my rule. If you're edgier than me, you get banned from my community. But if you're as or less edgy, that's
so
fine.
Funny. You're being called out in real time by your chat.
I am the wall. So I've got a lot of edgy people in my community who make like jokes that people like that Lumi would not allow in their chat. And my argument is this: Lumi gets Lumi's community. I get my community. I will never backtalk Lumi for doing things differently than I. And I hope they would say the same for me, because we share a goal. And even if we keep different communities, and maybe their community wouldn't like mine and mine wouldn't like theirs that much, though I think mine would like theirs very much, that as long as we share that mutual respect, the iron curtain of solidarity, I think we're kosher. I think we're completely good. I'm completely fine with that. That's all I want. The alt-right does this perfectly. They never criticize one another, except in the far fringes of like Nazism, where you get these weird beefs between Fuentes.
I don't know. Tell that to Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, no. Yeah. You get it on the far fringes with the Nazis, because they're doing the shit we do. They're doing like the Nazi equivalent of Bernie or Bust, where they blow up their own fucking movement in an attempt to try and coalesce like radicalized power on their own like channels. But for the most part, conservatives don't argue with one another, even if they have contradictory positions. That's what I want to see. I want that mutual respect as a bridge to allow everyone to feel comfortable in the left and to engage with the sections of the left that they feel good in.
So I have a pushback here. If that's the case, and I agree with you for the most part here, then you probably can't call those who want to keep their own community, the insular ones, weak. Because you have in the past, right? That was the first time we ever had a conversation, was about how you said that there's a certain degree of weakness on the left, and that we need to show what you described as strength in order to be able to pull people out of these spheres. The alt-right, for example, these edgy boys aren't going to react to someone who's like, toning their language down, right? So at the same time, someone who needs to keep those insular communities safe, that is necessary as well. I would argue.
Okay. Would you agree with my characterization of a person as weak if they are unwilling to stand up to the rigors of advocating for their policies online? Like, for example, and I'm trying to use this like in a moral neutral sense. If there was like a very like sensitive, like, I don't know, like trans dude or whatever on Twitter, and like he's super lefty, of course, and but every time he gets into an argument or he pushes like on a certain position, he ends up coming out like getting like really like upset, or he doesn't do a good job expressing it because there's like a level of emotional investment there. Would you feel comfortable describing that person as weak, or is that too morally loaded for you?
I wouldn't feel comfortable describing this weak, because I come from a place of privilege, right? So I wouldn't be able to be like, hey, by the way, I demand this of you in order to justify, your position as, like, I don't know, a Twitter activist or whatever you call it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I am obviously very privileged. All of the history that I've lived through, all the socioeconomic precedent that has led to this moment, has given me like an unbelievable amount of self-esteem. That's not just my will. Like, that's a lot of luck, and I'm very happy about that. And I recognize not everyone can be in that position. I'm also almost impossible to insult. I mean, you can call me fat, I guess, but like, or like man bun, they like that one. But for the most part, like I'm a white dude. It's pretty hard to get me upset. Yeah, you can say too many Pop-Tarts, you know how it is. But yeah, so maybe
you're talking to a man without a spine, Vosh. Come on, man.
Yeah, true. We have lots of disabilities around here, and I don't get upset when people call me like a Aspie or whatever. So that doesn't upset me either. I guess my argument would be this: I don't think there's anything personally deficient about being the sort of person who would prefer being in Lumi's chat and being cozy and comfy and not really engaging in online advocacy. I don't think that makes a person a bad person. I don't think it's an immoral thing to be. But
I think those spaces are also necessary, I would go as far as saying, because like a lot of those people in those communities, there are people who've been shit on their entire lives, especially by society, right? And they have disproportionately high rates of suicide, things like that. I think they need those communities. I think they need a place where they can feel safe, and they finally have what they could consider a family where they're not subjected to slurs, R slurs, whatever you want to have it, right? So I think that is a very necessary
100%.
part of it.
And I've creeped isn't really the right term here, but I'm banned off Twitch, so I have to use like illicit accounts. I've creeped on Lumi's streams before. Lumi's streams are cozy as hell. So is my partner. Oh, yeah. I mean, just because like I'm edgy doesn't mean I don't appreciate like the comfort and compassion of like that kind of environment. I respect that. So I don't believe it is a moral deficiency to want to lean on those communities. My only request would be that only those who are capable of affecting positive change engage in attempts to affect positive change. Because I feel like my ability to do what I do is hurt a little bit when very sensitive people online kind of posit themselves, or they make themselves like a target for anti-leftists. So I would only say, like, we want to build a big tent, and some of that tent is going to be fighting on the front lines, if we want to use an incredibly pretentious description of what I do. And some of that tent,
Lord Zeus has come back.
Exactly, I'm fighting out here in the trenches. And some of the people should probably stick to safe Discord servers because they're personally sensitive, and that's fine. Maybe using the term weakness and strength isn't appropriate there, though I do tend to think in that language internally. I would more broadly say,
whatever.
Yeah, I would more broadly say, like, those who are rhetorically effective and those who are not should, I guess, be where they are best, I think.
And what then do you think is fair enough to say then, if that's your request, then both are going to be valid, like going on out, like, and at the same time people do need those communities. So why
I would never criticize them as long as they don't do that shit to me, because this is the reciprocity, you know. I don't mind the existence of sensitive people in the slightest, not as much as I used to, at least. But But if somebody's like, hey, Vosh, I don't appreciate when you call that neo-Nazi stupid. That was ableist. I have to take, and that has happened to me many times. I have to take pause for a second. And I can't help but feel a little bit bitter at people who are kind of riding off my efforts to make the world a better place without doing anything themselves, and in fact, kind of indirectly impeding me. So I'll be annoyed with them in that instance, but elsewise, I want them to be comfy and happy wherever they feel most comfortable, and I will not impugn them for it as long as I feel they're not impugning my ability to do my work.
I think ultimately that, like, even if people don't want anything to do with you, they can sit on the sidelines and be like, well, he is now just destroying, like, Sargon of a cat, right? So that alone should just be allowed. Like, he should be given his space to do that, right? Like, again, you do need people on the front lines who are destroying those kind of, like, liberal ideologies, I guess, or whatever you call it.
Are just more.
Fuck he is.
People are more interested in performatively, denouncing people on their own side here, I think, than they are with uniting. It's really unfortunate. I just think a lot of lefties care more about being the good lefties than they do about being the victorious lefties. Right now, there are multiple Chapo threads within the past 24 hours, I think, that are calling me like a CIA plant and like a rad lib, usually like packed full of really oblique, like meaningless arguments about me being like cucked by the establishment or something. And I'm sure they're having a lot of fun there.
What? For Joe Biden stuff?
Yeah, for voting for Biden, yeah. Going to vote for Biden. And, like, I'm sure they're having fun, and I hope they're having a great time over there, but, like, fuck me, dude. Like, this is my life. I wake up every day and fall asleep every night thinking about what I can do to maximize the good that I do, to make people comfortable, maybe not with my rhetoric, but at the very least with the world I want to build. And it kind of frustrates me. I feel like a lot of the left really cares about putting down leftists who don't meet like the very specific set of standards.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. That picture is damning. You're never gonna live that one down.
Wait, what picture?
The Joe Biden shirt and the hat.
That's a good ass picture. That was funny as fuck. I stand by it. Get all these busters mad. Get them angry. Make them froth. I love it.
Was that a fan? Did a fan mail that into you? Did you actually order that? Did you pay money for that, Bosch?
I paid
money. Was that a super chat converted into?
I paid. Oh yeah. Hey, which one of you chatters right now had your hard-earned money turned into a donation, turned into a Biden shirt? I want you to fucking postulate.
I would feel so betrayed. It's so betrayed. That would be an instant unsub.
That's the real question. It's like if a firing squad executes a man, which one of them is actually responsible for killing the guy? Like, whose bullet actually hit them? You'd say they're all equally culpable, even if only one of them did it. My entire chat is part of a funding scheme to give money to independent Biden shirt producers. It wasn't actually from his campaign. They're not selling. They've suspended their merch production because of COVID. So I had to buy like third party. So it went to artists.
So is that just like some third party? Is that like a knockoff Joe Biden swag? Is that what you picked up?
Yeah, I think I got off like Etsy or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't lie. I was laughing a lot when I saw that picture, and then I saw June's fucking picture of it with you with that thing. Hey, that might be the last thing we could end on. Sorry, because I know we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, no. Please, hey, I miss talking to you. I hope you've been well.
Okay, I thought you might have like 30 other guests on the go. The reason I know a lot of people are mad at me right now for speaking to ShoeonHead. I know you've spoken to her before, right? But two reasons why, and I put this forward, and this is something that might resonate with you, is when our channel got shut down by what I can only consider as alt-righters or Nazis or whatever the fuck it is, she was one of the only people on what you could consider the right, because at the time people were like, oh, there's a right-winger who's supporting you, was ShoeonHead. ShoeonHead was one of the people who tweeted out about that, but she probably falls in that category with you, right, where she uses even if you don't want to go as far as saying things like stupid or ableist, she uses like hard R's and stuff like that pisses a lot of people off, right? But when I brought her on, I was like, it's the same thing with Joe Rogan. There was a lot of people who were like, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders, and because of that, like, Joe Rogan is canceled. And this is coming from a guy who made the most popular anti-Joe Rogan video, I think, on the internet right now. It's not a very big category, but whatever. The left is getting fucking destroyed. across the board, whether it be Corbyn in the UK, whether it be, Bernie Sanders just losing this recent election, whether it be the fact that Trump is running the show and the right wingers are still running the show here, Bolsonaro in fucking Brazil, Erdogan, like across the board, it is very frightening to me to see the rise of either proto-fascism or fascism itself. Fuck, I'm making a resident point. You put that picture on there. I can't have a serious conversation with you, Vosh. That's not fair. This is what you call bad faith.
Yeah,
this
so
is bad
I'm
faith argumentation
not a
right
very
now.
serious guy. What can I say?
This is bad faith argumentation across the board.
I'm using those destiny debate tactics. You know how it is.
But yeah, to say the least, is that I'll put it succinctly. Shit is fucked. All right, that's it. Shit is fucked, and that there needs to be more people concerned with winning over normies, because that's something that a lot of people don't do, right? And I'm trying to learn how to do it. You are very effective at it. I don't know if it comes from you just debating Nazis and that pulls people in because of that. I don't know what it is, right? But people need to be able to convert normies, because like you said, what is it, 2% you estimate maybe Americans are left? That might be generous. At the end of the day, the average working stiff who listens to Joe Biden is not sitting there thinking about theory. They're not thinking about, letters to the Gotha program.
Yeah,
they're fucking thinking about how do they feed their family? How do they get the fucking food on the table, right? That's it. How do you enter those spheres? How do you convert people? That is something that I think the left has to get infinitely better at.
Yeah, I think the broad rejection of ShoeonHead has been really frustrating. So I want to frame this discourse around her, I think, because I think very highly of ShoeonHead. ShoeonHead is a huge public figure, and even when I was tiny, she has been one of the most actively communicative people that I have spoken with, which is insane to me because I'm now like a 10th her size and I have no time for anything anymore. I'm always more emails and Discord messages off stream. Shu is, I think, a very upstanding person, and while I acknowledge that Shu probably isn't as politically grounded as like you or I would be, because we have different rhetorical focuses, there's something that Shu did recently that I appreciate the hell out of. I hope she doesn't mind. They probably wouldn't mind at all me saying this. During the Bernie or Bust drama on Twitter, ShoeonHead was in there too, and ShoeonHead was kind of criticizing me. ShoeonHead is very populist leaning. So any arguments about like Biden the bullet, it doesn't really like resonate with her. So she criticized me a bit, and then later she DM'd me, and she asked me some questions like, hey, I understand the validity of some of your arguments, but keep in mind, my audience, I've moved like literally tens of thousands of people away from being conservatives towards being like these edgy, like Bernie bro types, and these guys aren't going to vote for Biden. They wanted Bernie. What do I do here? And we talked for a bit, and I gave my thoughts, and she gave her thoughts. And the next day, she gave me an idea, the bullies for Bernie thing, where we rhetorically reframe it as, hey, we loved bullying Buttigieg, didn't we? Hey, wouldn't it be fun to do that for 4 years and get some positive social change out of it rather than it just being for fun? She suggested that to me. I thanked her in DMs, and she was like, hey, no, anytime. I'll try to use this argument in the future. This seems like it would work on my audience. Holy shit. ShoeonHead is more effective and more responsible for the outcomes of her rhetoric than almost any lefty I have ever talked to. And that is so important because ShoeonHead has pull in communities that I don't have reach in. Joe Rogan obviously does. We need to be able to open up our tent and accept the fact that if we want to win, we need people who are not perfect representations of our ideology carrying some of the work. Look at what the conservatives have done. PewDiePie is one of the most effective pipeline entry points for conservatism. But none of these conservatives or alt-righters sit around and talk about, I don't think PewDiePie is politically educated enough to really represent our position. No, they don't do that shit. They just throw their hands up. Woo, PewDiePie. They love it because they recognize correctly that power is all that matters at the end of the day when it comes to reaching people. And PewDiePie is one of the most powerful media figures in the English-speaking world right now. They have him, and that's good for them. If we can see that and recognize it's to their benefit, but then fucking Joe Rogan endorses Bernie, and we are all like, I don't don't know if I'm comfortable with this, then we're dead. Then we lose. We need to recognize part of the pipeline is letting folks who aren't perfect cut and dyed leftists come into our communities so we can help them be better. But we need to open ourselves up to that process. We can't just only admit people who are already like perfect lefties. It's really, really frustrating.
What's the bully strategy? Just to bully Biden?
It is to convince Bernie or busters that a tremendous benefit to voting for Biden and having Biden in office will be because it will then allow us to bully a Democratic establishment, which could conceivably bear progressive fruit, as opposed to we can't bully Trump. What are you fucking kidding me? We're incapable. He's incapable of being bullied.
The people who are supposed to do that for their job, which would be Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, can't do it. What the fuck are the left?
So let's bully them for not bullying Trump.
Yeah. No, I get it. It makes perfect sense. What's the other thing about that though? Sorry, I completely lost my thought. Now I'm just too excited to bully Biden again. It's
exciting. God, I get bullying Trump. Trying to hold the Republican establishment accountable is depressing. Trump goes up there. He's like, injecting bleach, the epidermis, bleach in the skin. It'll kill the virus, folks. It'll kill the virus. All the best scientists are saying this. What do we say to that? There's nothing. We can't do anything. But Biden goes up there and he's like, Jack, I know I said I do student loan forgiveness, but well, my kid. Back in 1952, like that, there's so much more to work with there. Our bullying is effective because there are progressives in the DNC that we can operate with. We have allies on our side. We can work with AOC. We can work with Bernie Sanders. We can work with people like that. It's so much more fun, and it leads to something. And I don't have to wake up every morning remembering, I'm really sorry, guys, that our president can say any dumb shit he wants, and his own cabinet is terrified to call him out on it. Because all the doctors next to him know that if they call him out live, if he says some dumb shit like that, he's just going to fire them and replace them with fucking Eric Trump or something. Yeah, at least the DNC, like, fuck me, dude, is a little less apocalyptic. I don't know. Like, that's what I mean, though. We need to focus on positive arguments. Get people excited.
I just totally remember what I was going to say. I wanted to ask her about the whole anti-feminism arc and that whole anti-SJW stuff, because I know like a lot of people talk about how they almost fell into more right-wing stuff because it's very profitable, it's very lucrative, you get all this new kind of audience, right? And I was like, well, are you, it's just weird for me. I'm not going to try and be like the dude who now argues feminism with a woman, but I was curious why you went down that road. And I didn't know this, but what she revealed to me was like, she's like, I don't think I was ever really mad at feminists. I was mad at neoliberalism, and I didn't have a word for it. And that to me, like, I've never heard that before. That was the first time that's come across to me. But I was like, that's so interesting. What do you mean? She's like, well, I'm really mad at woke advertisement. Like the fact that Dove will sell me a shampoo bottle based on the fact that, like, you know, body image, yay, go girl, yes queen, all that kind of stuff. She's like, and that's what fucking pissed me off. So that's what I thought feminism was. That's why I was angry at what I was calling third wave feminism. But ultimately, I'm really fucking pissed off at corporations who are trying to market to me this idea of what I should be buying based on my own, like, you know, ideologies, stuff like that.
Yeah, and fucking like Gwyneth Paltrow tier, like uber wealthy white women who are trying to sell feminism as some sort of spiritual awakening or something like that. Yeah, no, I hadn't heard it phrased that way before. I think that's incredibly.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that. I was like, oh, interesting, neat. But I mean, that doesn't change the fact, Vosh, that I think you and me, I mean, for all the things that we ally with each other, I don't know if I'll never be the person who drops like R slurs when debating those people, right?
Good. But it's shitty. It hurts people's feelings. Don't do it.
Okay.
I invested all my fucking starting stat points in certain areas, and in other areas like immediate self-control. It just, I didn't have much space in there. Please don't make the left better than me. I just want to be out here convincing conservatives and people on like the far walls. I want to throw them back to people who are a little bit more disciplined, you know, a little bit more reasonable. Maybe, you know, I don't think that my like ideological advocacy isn't like a good endpoint. I think that it's perfectly acceptable that many leftists would feel comfortable in my community and stay in my community. Like, they don't all have to leave, but if the people want to, I think they should be able to, and I encourage them to. Just yesterday, I got this massive email from somebody who said that they really enjoy my content. And that they really love everything that I've done for them, but they're just gonna have to stop watching me if I can't stop using the R slur. And they don't want to like add me to the list of content creators that they've outgrown. And I said like, I'm really sorry. You should find other content creators. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be, and I don't want your feelings to be hurt by being in my community. Really glad you enjoy my content. If I work on it, I work on it, but it won't be because of an email. And that would be the message I'd give, I guess. You know, we all have our flaws.
But doesn't the public policy aspect play into it as well? Because you yourself, I mean, as Zeus high on Mount, you should also have to have a certain degree of like what you do, what your messaging is matters, right? Isn't there that argument as well?
Yeah, of course. I do think my messaging matters, but I don't think using the R slur once or twice, like
Yeah, you're saying that's not like the
I don't
be-all
think it
end-all.
meaningfully like hurts it that much. I don't think there's like a real problem of ableism in my community, especially since my mods are pretty anti R slur and they're the ones who actually dictate like the calling of the community. And I don't like seeing people in my chat use that word because, again, like my level of edginess, no further. But yeah, like I do think there is value in the argument that that kind of irreverent language, like also using the term femoid or whatever, can pull in groups of people that would otherwise be inclined to ignore what man bun lefties say. But it's utilitarian like calculus. At the end of the day, I think most people could reasonably agree that I do a fair amount of good and that using the RSR like once a stream or like once every other stream is probably not a level of harm sufficient enough to warrant like serious denunciation. And if it is, they should probably go in other communities instead of bothering me in mine.
What do you want me to bring to the other side of the island? The one that you're not allowed on? The island of misfit toys.
You're not the island. You're one of the most respectable people on Twitch. I think you've done a really phenomenal job.
That's not true. I'm a human dumpster fire, sir.
I think you've done a pretty fantastic job. You know, positioning yourself as a reasonable voice in the broader, you know, online lefty streaming community. If you want to bring anything back, just like I'm growing really, really quickly. It faster than I even expected when I set out. You know. And I think like my prominence at this point is an inevitability and it's going to grow from this point. So I would only ask that people either get used to it and try to internally rationalize how I'm doing good, even if they might be personally uncomfortable with kind of some of the stuff that I do, or they come to my stream, they check me out and they see like, oh, holy shit, this guy literally spends 99.9% of his time arguing against reactionary rhetoric. So he's maybe not as bad as I might have heard in some Twitter call-out posts. But you're a good guy, and I know your audience is full of reasonable people, so I'm sure they already probably have a reasonable opinion of me.
That makes everything sound nice. That's a good wholesome end to it, eh? A good blanket for the mind.
Yeah, I really appreciated the conversation. I didn't expect it to be this exhaustively in-depth. I really like that.
Well, that's the only kind of conversations I have. That and I talk about penises a lot. That's basically my
Hey,
brand.
me too, buddy. I actually
Yay.
yeah, I've been trying to cut it down lately. Ever since the Coomer meme arose up, I don't want to be associated. I don't want that insult being used against me. I'm very, very, very quiet now about all my proclivities. So don't want them hitting me with that. I got enough fucking pejoratives thrown my way.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Vosh, take care. Keep fighting.
Plug yourself. What are you doing?
Oh, yeah, well, I guess. Well, everyone already knows who I am. I am the Alpha Zeus. This is the true omni-leftist here to talk to you about from Cyanide. Hey, everyone, I'm Lance. I'm one half of the Serfs. You can come check our shit out at youtube.com/theserfstv or twitch.tv/theserfstv. I do Twitch streaming every Monday to Friday. And anywhere social media is sold, you can find me at the Serfs TV, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Pornhub, which is now the most lucrative aspect of my career. So check it out. It's all at the Serfs TV.
Are you actually on Pornhub?
I am not on Pornhub. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? There's a genre for everything on Pornhub I found. So I think if I just set like, you know, that section where you were reading Karl Marx and I was in silence and everyone who tuned in was probably like, what the fuck are these two people doing? If we called that leftist mutual masturbation, that would be its own genre. Like that would probably make money. I could just cut that one thing out and put it on there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Absolutely. Dude, Pornhub didn't, like, after YouTube demonetized all videos that had guns in them following, I think it was the Christchurch shooting, didn't a bunch of gun YouTubers move to Pornhub? So
They did.
Yeah, they had their own thing. You know, you'd get like the anal double penetration, and then you'd go to like, and here's me cleaning the inside of an AR-15. You can see, I got this.
Here's
little widget
one
here.
hole that needs a cleaning.
Yeah,
let
like,
me
you know,
say.
they're both ends.
Yeah, great.
Pornhub's a funny site.
It is.
Thank you so much, Lance, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Best of luck in your future endeavors, and I hope to speak with you soon.
Sounds good, Voss. Cheers.
Cheers.